Jim Gallagher Jr. joining us on the Farm Bureau phone line. Over the weekend, Jim Gallagher inducted into the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame. I have a question, and I hope that you take this, Jim. Well, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Just so cool.
It is.
Here's my question, and I mean this in the nicest way possible. When you look around and see the names and the plaques that are part of the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame, and I know the kind of guy you are, is there any possible way to look at all that is there and go, you know what, I really deserve to be here too?
That's a tough question. I mean, that's for others to decide, I guess, and they did. I'm just humbled and honored to be in there with the names that you mentioned. When you look at it, even the class I was in, they were talking about Willis Wright, that I think Coach Tyler said that he could beat you with his team and then coach your team and beat you with that team. He was that good coach. And I thought that was brilliant. And, Coach Davis, I sat by him most of the time, and Dave DeLucy, it was just so much fun. And Eric Moles looks like he could play today. I mean, he was in great shape. And Coach Tyler, and Barry Lyons, and it was so amazing to go into that when you look at all the great names that are in there, like you said. But the most special thing is to go in there with Sissy, and I think that's the one. Someone asked me what's it going to be like, and then they asked me when it was over. I mean, when I walked in that room, it was a little overwhelming. There's 700 people in there, and you kind of sit back, and your life kind of goes back in time and relive a lot of the things you did when they show that video of what we did and what they did. And it's just, it was really a cool moment. I had all my kids there and grandkids and so many people and friends. I didn't realize, it's like 3 of my teammates and my coach drove down from Knoxville and Nashville. And it was just, it was an amazing weekend. And I didn't want it to stop. I didn't want it to end. It was just so much fun.
It's just incredible. Is there another husband and wife membership in the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame that you know of?
No, not in the Mississippi, and I don't know about other ones. Someone brought that up. We're the first, I think, in Mississippi, and probably in a whole lot of them. And that's the cool part is Sissy was so deserving, and just to see, sitting there with her that night, I just enjoyed the heck out of that, and I just like, wow. She's being recognized for the great things she has done and what she's done and continues to do for Mississippi women's golf and for the little girls that are trying to play, and she's still doing those things. And to sit there at that table with 8 of us, and you look out there, and I look at my family. That was what I was the most proud of, is just to sit there and look at my family, and I was just like, wow, I am a blessed man, no question.
Jim, you read stories and you hear stories all the time about athletes that burn out, that they work too hard too young and they lost their love for it. Given what you were talking about with Sissy, with her accomplishments in women's golf, with your daughters, your family's accomplishment, all of your accomplishments, obviously, in golf as well, how have you maintained your love for the game of golf and been able to individually and as a family avoid burnout?
Well, that's a good question, because I did kind of burn out on it. When I turned about 40, around 2000, we had the kids, and that was great, and I wasn't playing that well, and it got to be a job. It wasn't that passion that I had. It wasn't that I wasn't working hard. I felt like I was working just as hard. And I was starting to fall out of love with it, and it was starting to just not be any fun again. And, I couldn't prioritize whether I wanted to be home or wanted to be playing, and I got them so mixed up. And then even the year or two after I kind of cooled off and didn't play as much, it was the same thing. And I think once I got into TV and I realized, man, these guys hit bad shots too, that I kept in touch with it. And in Champs Tour, I just was so far removed from competition for so many years, I lost a little of that edge, because there's a competitive edge that after a year or so, it's probably like coaching. When these coaches get fired and they don't come back in and coach for a year or two and they're out of the game, you kind of lose a little bit of that edge. And I felt like I did Champions Tour-wise. There were times and moments that were great, but I'd have to say when I got back into TV with Golf Channel, and I just didn't take it as serious and realized just enjoy it. It's a gift that you had, and have fun with the kids. And when I go out and play today, I don't even keep score. I just have fun. I had 2 of my teammates. We went to Old Waverly. We had a blast. We didn't keep score. We were playing a little fun game, and it was just that's why we played the game. That's why Sissy and I played it, because we loved it. I think that's why every kid plays a game. But when it gets to the point where it becomes a job and you do it professionally, it's very tough. And I fell into that trap and almost said to myself, man, I wish I lost my card. And then once I lost it, I said, oh, I wish I had it back. And then that's kind of the turmoil I was in when I was about 40 or 41. And there was no reason for me to doubt my talents, but I did. And it wasn't until, the kids started playing and I got kind of that watching them play and have success. I wasn't living my golf life through them because I'd already done that. I was just seeing how they were enjoying it, and I think that's probably when I really kind of kicked in, watching them play high school, college golf. Thomas and Kathleen were on the high school team at Pillow when they won the state championship, and Kathleen and Mary Langdon won the state AMs. I think that's where I kind of got back in love with it and just didn't get to the point where it wasn't a job. It was just like, this is a game, and I think that's the beauty of it. When you look at all those athletes, like watching Dave DeLucy, perfect example of a guy that no one thought he could do it. He was injured, and he had 1% chance. Just give me 1% chance. It's that elite player that'll do whatever it takes to win and be great. And that's what was so cool about that class, to see what they accomplished and watch their story. Just to watch how they did things. It was just so amazing, all the things they had gone through, too. And that was the cool part, is we could share those things. Like Eric Bolts talked about my dear friend Kent Hall, who was a center for Buffalo, and how Kent had influenced him and made him feel welcomed. And I just thought that was one of the coolest moments of the night is when they did Eric's interview, and he talked about Kent, and I got teary-eyed, and I looked at Sissy, and she was crying. It was one of those nights.
Yeah. It's incredible stuff, visiting with Jim Gallagher Jr. this past weekend, officially inducted into the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame. You said a second ago you didn't even keep score, but when you've been playing golf your entire life, you still know what you shot, don't you?
You do, but you know what the beauty of it is, Richard? I can just pick up and drive to the next hole. That's where I'm at, and that's the beauty of it. That's the great thing. I hit a ball right, I'll just ride on this one, get a drink of water, and wait till the next tee. The problem is I'm not playing enough and I can't stay loose enough, so that's the issue.
Yeah, that's fair. Hey, I want to ask you one thing, and we don't have time to really get into this. At some point I want to get your thoughts on it, but you were talking about the decision where you had to either completely invest and play golf or be a dad, be a husband, be around a little bit more. I don't believe it from everybody, but some of these guys who are choosing to go play on the LIV Tour have cited not having to play as much, being able to be with their family. Is that one area where you can be sympathetic to the decisions they're making?
I don't buy that argument one bit. Okay. Just say you took the money, and maybe they are doing it. I think what you're seeing, guys in their 40s that aren't able to maybe beat the guys on the PGA Tour, they have an opportunity to get that last hurrah, and maybe that's what they're doing. And maybe they are. I don't know. But when the LIV Tour goes to 14 events next season, and if you play the 4 majors, you're really not cutting back as much. And maybe they are. I can't answer that for them. I think ultimately it's about the cash. And my opinion is take the cash, go on, don't dog the PGA Tour. If that's where you want to do, then do it. But the PGA Tour, to me, is where it's at, and that's where my loyalty is, but that's just my personality. They gave me a vessel and an opportunity to play it. I think you see a lot of people in their 30s and younger think the LIV Tour is something cool and new. That's because it is. And the people in their 40s and older still love the PGA Tour. But I think the PGA Tour is going to have to do some things different than they've done in the past, and it's going to be interesting. It's got to play out. But I think in the long run, the PGA Tour is still the greatest place to play. And they gave me that opportunity. So I'm not a talking head for them. I feel like they gave me a chance, just like the University of Tennessee gave me a chance, and just like everybody else in Mississippi made me feel at home. That's where I feel. It's like the Steve Azar said, I breathe Mississippi, I'll die Mississippi, and that's just where I stand with it.
I don't remember which player it was, but there was a player who was single with no immediate family who talked about doing this because it was what was best for his family. And I thought, okay, are you just like reading from a cue card here? What are we doing? That's really well said.
I think you see that a little bit. They have kind of their standard answers. But, yeah, I understand why, hey, it's generational changing money for a lot of these guys. I get that. And we can argue it back and forth, the moral part of it and everything, but that's not where I stand with it. Take your money. If that's where you want to do, great. I just never felt when I was in a tournament there wasn't a cut and there was guaranteed money, my intensity level, if I wasn't in the top 5 or 10, wasn't as strong and high to claw it out like it is when you're just trying to make enough to pay your bills.
One of the newest members of the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame, Jim